Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Brian Kraus, and I'm the educational strategist for CDW Education for the Western United States. And I'm very excited today to interview a school safety expert. But first, before we get started, I want to thank Doug Konopelko for setting this up for us and allowing us to focus on education with school safety. Again, like I said, I'm very excited to interview today John McDonald, who's the Chief Operating Officer for the Council of School Safety Leadership, and he's based out of Missouri. And John is one of the premier school safety leaders across the United States. He regularly speaks to school districts, corporations, and is a very good friend of mine. And I'm so excited today to hear some of his insights and how we can continue to get better around school safety. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what does it look like? What does the modern classroom look like as it relates to school safety, and how can we reimagine it in the classroom? So starting out with John, if you could, first and foremost, please tell us your name and kind of your role and a little bit about your background in education and school safety.
Thanks, Brian. I'm excited to be here today. It's always a good conversation at an important time. We're at a time in our history where school violence is increasing at a level that we've never seen before. So I think it's not only a relevant conversation, but it's critically important that we have some really open, honest, and direct conversations about just what it is we're faced with every day. I've been in the school safety arena for almost 2 decades. I spent 14 years as the executive director of school safety for Jeffco Public Schools in Colorado, the District of Columbine High School. And for those that may not know, Jeffco Schools has experienced 3 school shootings in its history. And within 35 miles of Columbine, there have been 9 school shootings in 20 years. So it's something that we've lived with for a long time. When I left Jeffco and came to Missouri to take the position for COO for the Council of School Safety Leadership, the idea was to create a program that provided crisis response services to school districts all over the country, providing leadership guidance, support, and crisis communications, incident response, confidential investigations, analysis and review of critical incidents, and supporting districts and school boards. And my work is done on behalf of the Missouri School Board Association that has stood up this council on behalf of school boards and districts all over the country.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. We're looking forward to hearing some of your expertise. And I can tell you from personal experience what a great leader John is around this area, and he has done so much work. So John, if as we look at reimagining how school safety is in the classroom, what does that look like to you?
I think as I was thinking about that question a minute ago about reimagining school safety in the classroom, I realized it's really a reimagining school safety from the curbside to the classroom. And how do we look at the world differently, provide that welcoming environment that our kids thrive on, that our teachers and staff and administrators provide every day, at the same time providing that secure environment. And there's always been this fine balance of welcoming environment and fortress building. What do you do? Well, there's a pathway for both. Just because you secure your building doesn't mean you can't be kind and to every child. And every child deserves a kind, caring, trusted adult in their school. So I think it's a relationship business, and the opportunity when you have that trusted adult for kids is that you get a lot more information and intel about what's happening. The kids always know before an adult ever does what's going on in their school. So that's really important. I think technology plays such a big part in everything that we're doing right now. I mean, our kids live on their devices. We're seeing some kindergarten classes with upwards of 60% or more of the kids with their own personal cell phone. That's fascinating to me. These kids can't even spell, but they're texting mom and dad. And it's fascinating because, this new generation is so tech savvy. They're really digital natives. And as I think about that and, the change in technology just in the last 15 years in video surveillance systems is remarkable. It used to be you look at a video and you'd see what you thought was Sasquatch moving through the forest. Now you can read a license plate from 300 yards away and identify who a suspicious person is. That's good living. And it really promotes school safety at a level that we've never experienced. And now, artificial intelligence systems are coming online and schools can't quite afford it yet. So anybody in the tech world building that AI platform, build it cheap because we don't have any money. But I think there's opportunity. Weapons detection platforms, those systems that are coming out now, while they may not fit for a school today, 5-10 years from now, 15 years from now, it'll be a standard in the industry and across K-12 systems that every school has one. So it's a rapid emerging of systems. And because kids are using, their one-to-one devices, we have the opportunity to market and message amazing communication to our kids about anonymous hotline systems that they can call and tell us when there's a crisis, something that they know about that's occurring that we can then respond to. Lockdown panic systems that are in schools around the country right now. That is really important because what's happening on the backside of the school, the front office may never know about. So how does your teacher then alert everybody else that there's a problem? Today, there's virtual panic buttons on cell phones that every educator can have to rapidly alert to a threat in their immediate area. And those rapid alerts allow us to do rapid response. And the faster we respond, the more lives we save.
So, John, what do you think you've talked a little bit about technology and relationships and some of the things that the changing technology as it not only at the school level, but also at the personal level with students and teachers. I guess, what do you see as the biggest impact in the last, I'd say even year to 5 years around school safety?
Well, I think there's when I think about impact, I think there's a positive impact and a negative impact. The biggest positive impact that I've seen in the arena of school safety is that more schools are interested in it and they understand that they need both technology and well-trained people in their environment. The negative impact is that increase of school violence that we're seeing at that unprecedented level that we've been talking about is really scaring everybody. And it's something that schools, teachers, administrators, and kids are living with every single day. And that has significant impact on the quality of education that we can provide. So I think we have to look at the world from a spectrum of what's working and why, but also that cause and effect. What's driving the need for so much of this? And school safety has become a multi-billion-dollar industry, but every parent wants to know that their child's going to come home safe and alive at the end of the day. And it's an incredibly important investment.
Absolutely. You talked a little bit about relationships. Tell me more about what relationships, not only at the school level, but also in the community.
I think, community engagement at all levels is really where we win or lose. Um, whether it's law enforcement, school partnerships, whether it's partnerships between school districts and tech companies that have a focus on protecting the student. I think the relationship between uh, teacher and student is really important. And what we're seeing is a transition of teachers that are less confrontational. This generation of teachers don't like to confront anymore. So they struggle with kids that are boundary probing. And we have to really find ways to help support those teachers that just can't confront those kids. And how do we do that? Because um, rules are going out the window. And what we're seeing is that zero tolerance is no longer even considered. But now the pendulum has swung so far to the other side that pretty much anything goes. And if you, in some cases, you bring a gun to school, you're told just don't do it again. There has to be hard lines. There has to be that line in the sand that we say no more, not here, not now. And I think those are important. And I think making sure that we level set with our community, with our kids, with our educators and parents, and everybody being on the same page.
I know that with all your experience, you've run across. Could you share an example, maybe, of a time that technology kept kids safe? You mentioned a little bit about reporting and that sort of thing, but can you kind of give an example that would be relevant to educational schools and personnel?
Oh gosh, every day. When I think of the ability for a school to immediately notify us of an incident that's occurring, and we have a rapid response that allows us to stop that threat before it becomes a significant injury or death. That is real world stuff that is occurring. Let me give you just one example, though, of technology that really made a difference in it. It was with an anonymous reporting system in Colorado called Safe to Tell. And a student used it to report that his friend was suicidal. And that technology that went out to law enforcement, the school principal, uh, and our school safety department allowed us to triangulate and do a search for that student. It turned out that the student's brother found his sibling just as he had hanged himself from a tree. He was able to get to him, lift him up, hold him up high enough, and get help. And his brother was saved. That technology, moment in time, made all the difference in the world. But it was also important that that student knew when he reported that his friend was in crisis that somebody was going to come help.
Yeah.
And that's the trust that you build.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of Columbine High School. 2019, 20 years after the tragedy, we had over 4,200 people show up that year to try to get in the school, to look at the school, to touch it and feel it. They were inspired by the tragedy 20 years later, and they were so enthralled with the fact that it was a 20th memorial anniversary that they just felt like they had to show up from all over the world. Well, those video surveillance systems that we have in place there that allow us to read license plates from a significant distance away allowed us to triangulate on who those people were, who those suspects were, in some cases that were up to no good. And it made a significant difference in keeping that entire school safe at a time when we were facing real threats that were problematic. So every day we see and hear about successes based on technology. The teacher that has a panic button on their phone, they can push that panic button when a student is out of control, when a student is expressing a desire to harm, threatening to kill, and we can get support to that classroom in less than a minute. That is real world good work that's occurring based on technology.
Wow. Well, thank you for those powerful examples, and appreciate your work. What are some gaps that you see that schools are experiencing with safety?
I tell you, I think the biggest gap is complacency. Thinking that we put a camera in, that's going to solve the problem. It's only one component of it. So if you have a camera, great. You have access control that complements the camera system. It's integrated. I mean, I think that's what you all do is you're an integrator of multiple platforms of technology, and it's school safety is the same way. There's a spectrum of this. It has to all be interconnected. So from prevention to preparedness, to response and recovery, all of that is interconnected. And I think sometimes what I see happening is, schools get tunnel vision. And I think that's a significant gap. I think the other gap is that schools struggle with the fact that there's only a certain availability of funds. So school safety and education, by their mere nature, are often competing for the same dollar. So what I always like to do is, when I look at the school safety side, is there a way to complement the education piece? Is there a way to integrate multiple platforms into the same technology so that we can use it together and justify a cost, whatever that looks like? So sometimes there is and sometimes there's not, but I think that's the real gap right now, is figuring out how we're going to fund both these really important pieces of a student's education.
Well, it's so important too, and school districts look for not only locally, but there's national and state funds that are available for grants and that sort of thing as they move forward in their. And I agree. I think there's a large spectrum in where schools are at, and so kind of have to meet schools where they're at and get better. I think you said it best that school safety deserves our very best, and looking at every resource is so important.
You and I have each responded to multiple school shootings in our career. We spent a decade together working critical incidents, unimaginable tragedy. And I can't help but think that for all of these lessons learned over the past 25 years, I mean, before Columbine, it was Paducah, it was Jonesboro, it was Springfield, it was Pearl, Mississippi. We had all these school shootings, and then the past 25 years, and we see a lot of successes, but we continue to see too many failures. And when you look at Parkland, you look at Uvalde, you have to say, well, our kids deserve better. They deserve better than we've given, and they deserve our very best every day, whether it's in our education of them or keeping them safe. So that duty to protect, I think, is a core responsibility, not just from a school district standpoint, but from a community standpoint. And I think from a corporate philosophy. And that's where I think, certainly CDW, other organizations that focus on this thing we call school safety, they're mission partners with us. And that success is not independent. It's that in itself is integrated.
Yeah, I agree. So, John, if we could break it down to the teacher level, how do teachers become more adept at school safety? How do they become better?
Great question. I think one of the things that teachers have to do is they have to believe the threat. Um, the time of complacency is over. I think teachers need to take emergency drills seriously, treat it as if they're training today for tomorrow, and be realistic about the fact that they are the emergency manager of the classroom. They're often the first responder of the hallway. So that's part of teaching in 2023. And I think if we have that mindset of no more, not here, not now, then that permeates to our kids also. So I think all of that plays into a stronger classroom, but so much occurs outside the classroom in the hallway, and teachers making sure that they're paying attention to what's going on around them. Teachers not afraid to talk to their administrators willing to listen to their teachers. There's a novel idea, but it's really critically important that we are building that trust with each other, building that intel network amongst each other. And I think all that makes sense. And teachers will see kids on their devices looking at things that they shouldn't be looking at, writing things that they shouldn't be writing. Those teachers have a responsibility to lift that up and make sure that their administrator knows, so that the administrator can let the IT network know, or IT administrator know, and the school safety people know. Because oftentimes something will happen in a school and nobody tells the IT department anything. The IT department doesn't know that maybe their filters didn't work well and didn't stop the student from looking up material that they should have had no access to. So it's really bringing in a multi-faceted team to this approach to school safety. And then sometimes it's sitting down with our business partner and saying, here's our problem. Do you have a solution for us? Because a lot of times we don't know the solution, but CDW is going to have a solution for us. And it's up to us then to figure out, okay, how do we afford that? How do we pay for that? Where do we find a grant for it? Can we write a grant together with you all to have a bigger impact on our community and lift that up and market that and tell the world what we're doing to make that change and difference?
That's great. Thank you. That encapsulates exactly what I think school districts need to hear. Thank you so much. So, last question for you, John. If someone's listening to this and they want to learn more, there's maybe some resources or blogs, books, or people that you rely on around school safety, what would you recommend for them? And I don't think we've ever talked about this before.
No, we haven't. A couple places. I think one of the very best in the country to send people to is safeandsoundschools.org. A remarkable program started by two Sandy Hook moms that have been changing the world. And Michelle Gay speaks all over the country, along with Frank DeAngelis, our retired principal at Columbine, who's become part of the Safe and Sound family. And I love that program because it has everything from the prevention piece to the response to the recovery, material embedded within their program. And they're doing some amazing things, including a new program that the Jeff DeAngelis Foundation funded called Especially Safe, which is planning for special needs kids, emergency planning for special needs kids, which is something nobody's really thought about in the past. So a lot of material there. I recommend, if you want to read a really good book, read They Call Me Mr. D by Frank DeAngelis. I think Kate Schweit has a great book out there on school shooters also. There's any number of resources. The Center for Educational Safety, the Missouri School Board Association, is another area that you can go to that has some great material, and they really focus on working with the school safety side of the business, but also the educational piece and bringing that together and training principals and teachers and school safety people and SROs together at the same table.
Nice. Well, thank you, John. And I just want to say, for me, I am so thankful for the impact you've had on so many kids' lives, and the work that you're continuing to do, and at the national level. I'm just so proud to call you a friend, and I really appreciate your expertise and what you do every day to keep kids safe. And so
I appreciate it. I just value our friendship so much, but people in your world, I don't think they understand that. Maybe they do. You bring a lifetime of crisis management experience to the table. You can't buy that. You got to earn that. You certainly have.
Well, thank you so much, John. And thank you for your time today.
You bet.
Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can be notified whenever we post new content. Looking forward to seeing you next time.